Okay. So,
I can give you a couple specs as to where I'm coming from.
Sure.
My background's mostly technical, but I've been working with Sierra Club, and they want to go ahead and use Drupal in their new site. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, they want to use this thing, and they've been talking about it in terms of, hey, we want a more interactive site and so forth and so on.
Sure.
100% they know what they're talking about, but they have some ideas as to what they want. So I need to know a little more about it, so I can see if I can use it.
Okay. So, but you've made websites before, just not with Drupal.
No. Yeah, I've made websites before, but not with Drupal.
Okay. So
I've used PHP before, and HTML and that kind of stuff. So or used WAMP and that kind of stuff. So I've used things like XAMPP and that kind of thing to build things and play around with them, and I'm familiar with those tools and so forth. Besides,
okay.
Anyway, so go ahead.
Sure. So yeah. I mean, you can see there too, but
MAMP is the Mac equivalent of all of this stuff.
Yeah. In any of these, to run Drupal, you need what I'm going to go through is just installing Drupal on your own machine. The process is not very different when you're doing it on a machine that's connected to the that's an actual web server. But just in terms of beginning to work with Drupal, it's very good to just do this on your own computer. So what we usually recommend is that you get something like XAMPP, or do you use what's your computer platform of choice?
Oh, I have a Mac. Yeah.
Okay, so you would be looking for MAMP,
Yeah.
Which is at this website, mamp.info.
Okay.
And as it says, I mean, it's MAMP stands for Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, which are the three things that you need. You need the server, the database, and then the programming language.
Okay.
So you just download this thing, and it gives you, where'd I put it? It gives you this application that lives in your applications folder. Wake up. There we go. And here it is. And so after you download any of these packages, you basically just run this thing, and it will give you a control panel like this. And all it's going to tell you is that, hey, I'm running MySQL and I'm running Apache. Woo! And suddenly you're running an actual web server on your own machine. So the important part that seems to be a disconnect for you right now is that you need to know what the folder is on your computer that all of the files are served from. So MAMP, in its settings here, gives you a few things to look at, and in particular, you need to know the document root setting, which is just it's a folder, and it's where it's looking for all the files.
I guess there must be something.
So
the htdocs file or that settings file that's not set right.
Okay.
My guess.
Yeah, that could be. Well, I mean, if it's running at all, it's just pulling from a place that you're not expecting.
Well, it's pulling. It's okay. It's pulling. The fact that file's coming up is telling me that at least XAMPP and so forth got installed. Okay, and it's pulling a file it expects.
Yeah.
But it's not pulling Drupal.
Right.
The way I'd expect.
Right.
I don't know.
So there's two ways to get around that. Like the MAMP starts you off with it's some different path from this, but I like to use the sites folder in my user folder because that, like on Mac OS X, it just comes with a sites folder in your home directory, and so it's just convenient. So I changed my setting to use this, and so do you want to look and see where?
Well, I'm
where
not
that's happening for you.
I can take a look, but the main thing is that I'm not sure what is going to be dictating.
I mean, open up XAMPP and look in there.
Oh, okay. Let's see. It's going to be. Let's see. Let's see. I thought there was a sites folder somewhere.
Well, I mean, you can open up the. I would assume that in the actual XAMPP program, the running application, it probably will tell you somewhere in there if you open that, because that's going to be the most reliable way to find out.
Oh, you mean something like a README type of thing?
No, I mean just switch from the Explorer to XAMPP.
Okay.
Or does it run on Windows as a service, not a regular?
Okay, I think I told it to run it as a service.
Okay, so there must be.
I don't know if I shot myself in the. I think I installed it so it would run as a service.
Yeah, but there's probably a control panel.
Yeah, okay, there was a control panel icon around here someplace. Oh,
yeah.
Here is a control panel icon.
Yeah.
Run it from your root. Run this program. Okay, it said it failed someplace.
All right, we'll table this and come back to it just so I can get through the whole process. And so after you change that setting, this is spinning around as it's restarting the services, just to let you know it's doing that. And once the light turns green, there we go. We're back up and running again. So after you have that going, the next step is to actually download Drupal, which you can do from the Drupal homepage. Let's see if the wireless isn't. Okay, this is fine. And I'm currently logged in, so this might look a little different for you, but just go to the download page and download Drupal 7, which will take you to the Drupal project page. And there are a whole bunch of different ways you can install Drupal. We can go through a whole bunch of them, but the easiest one conceptually is just to find the right page to grab it and then download it. So on a Mac, it doesn't really matter which one of these, but I'll go with the zip file. So we downloaded that, and now we switch back to the Finder window here. Go to my downloads folder, and here's Drupal 7. So I'm just going to move that to a more convenient location. So this folder that I've set up here for the Drupal demo is in my sites folder, which is where I told the web server to look for it. So we just decompress that. And now, I'm going to rename this. I don't want any hyphens in there. And so now I can load up a new browser window. And the way MAMP is set up, you go to localhost, which is it's the special name that just says my computer, basically. And then if you've ever, I don't know if you know what the notion of a port is, but a colon and then some numbers after a URL is a special port. And there's technical reasons why it's set up this way, but on MAMP, your default location is this. So now I installed Drupal in this folder called Drupal Demo and then Drupal 7. So if I switch back to here and go Drupal Demo / Drupal 7, just matching exactly where I put it, then we have this.
Okay.
And so this will take me through the install process. Now, if I actually try and do this, it's not really going to help. I mean, we're not ready to completely install Drupal yet because I haven't set up a database, and Drupal needs a database. So we can do that now. Oops. When you first start using MAMP, when you run it, it will probably load up this page for you, which gives you a bunch of things here. So you can find out things like the version of PHP that's running on there, which most of the time you're not going to need to know, just at least when you're getting started. But the thing that's important is phpMyAdmin.
Bad things you'll run into on PHP sometimes is the tags for the PHP. I've had a lot of problems with those on a couple applications.
You mean
with the short tags and ASP tags and stuff like that? Some of the versions I've used have not been set up wrong, and I had to go mess with those. And that's a good place to go get a quickie check.
Sure.
They're set up right.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to with MAMP specifically. I know that the configurations are set so it's not an issue, and certainly for people who are starting out.
No, I just took a class and they said do this, and I tried it the way it said, and it didn't work. After a lot of messing around, I found out more or less from that page that was what was going on. It's a nice feature they stuck in there.
Right,
it gives you all in one place. Yeah,
it is nice. So as you can see, I've got a ton of databases here, but we're just going to create a new one. So I'm going to call this demo. And you can just pretty much ignore everything else and just hit create. And that creates a new database. And you don't need to do anything with this other than that, just to get an installation going. So now that that's ready, I can go back to my installation page and just go for it. So we'll stick with the standard install profile, and we'll go with English, just to keep it basic for now. So now we come to the part where I have to actually know this database business. So again, I named this database Drupal demo. So put that in here. And then the username and password with MAMP and with most of these other stacks where everything is built in, there's some default username, and I think you can find out what it is in the settings. Maybe it's not in here. But I can tell. I know that in MAMP it just sets it up with the username and the password both being root, which would be terrible if you were doing this on the internet. But when you're just doing it on your own computer where nobody else can touch the stuff, it's fine, and it keeps it simple. So root and root, and there's a bunch of other options in here which we don't need to concern ourselves with. I'm pretty sure. We'll see if I'm right. So I'll just save and see how we do. It looks like it's fine.
Do you need to do anything for FTP stuff, or is that something that's you pretty much assume that is on the server that you're going to use? And
well, for we're just talking about installing Drupal just on your own machine, and you don't need FTP, you don't need any of that stuff, because it's all right here.
Generally speaking, it would be on server. You'd just be running a client to some server.
Yeah, I mean,
where all your stuff was hosted anyway.
Yes, I mean, installing Drupal on another web server, you would need to have access to FTP or some other kind of way of getting the files up there. Okay. And so Drupal is now installed, and now we just have to give it some initial information here. So we'll just set up some basic stuff here. Administrator. I'm going to give it a terrible password. And oops. Set up this stuff. We're in Los Angeles. Great. And so this is just, I mean, this is all basic stuff. I think at this point, you can't say everything in Drupal is self-explanatory, but I think this is fairly self-explanatory. So we just let that go. That's it. And now Drupal is installed, and we can go crazy.
And this is still, it's not the, this is technically the back end still, right?
What you are now looking at is the front end.
Right. That's what the website looks like.
Yep. When you first install Drupal with nothing in it,
has a default.
It has this default theme called. This is for Drupal 7. It's called Bardic, and you are logged in. So it does look. It looks different if I log out. It takes away that that bar across the top and everything. But otherwise,
What's it called, did you say?
This theme,
Yeah.
Bartik.
Okay.
Bartik.
Okay. No, I know they've got all sorts of names running around, and if I can just correlate the name with something I've seen before, it helps.
Yeah, if you
put it in the slot.
This is a brand new theme for Drupal 7.
Yeah.
So unless you've played with Drupal 7, you will not have seen this before.
Yeah.
But I'm going to log back in. Yeah, I mean, so that's how to install Drupal.
So wait, I'm confused now. Cause you're saying this is the website. Then it has that dashboard content, that bar. That looks like a navigation bar.
It is
that
is a navigation bar for the administrative components of the site.
Okay, gotcha.
And so the thing with have you used I guess WordPress doesn't do this. Have you used things like WordPress or whatever?
Right, yeah.
So like with WordPress, to get to a lot of that stuff, at least with the default installation, you have to visit the WP admin section.
Yeah.
With Drupal, it presents you as the administrator or any kind of person with access to change stuff on the website. By default, it gives you this. Okay. Drupal 7 does.
So that black thing is the toolbar for Drupal itself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so
it's not something you're going to be adding or subtracting content from. No, I suppose you could, but in all probability, you're not.
I'll take you through what this looks like. So pretty much everything that you do in this version of Drupal 7, in this version of Drupal, Drupal 7, will load up. Again, if we're just talking about like what comes out of the box without you changing anything, it has this overlay business. So the idea is that you can do all this administrative crap that you need to do on your website, and then when you're done, you end up just back where you started as far as viewing your website or editing, content or what have you. So. So this dashboard, it's not very useful when you first start out because there's nothing in your website. But you can find out, you can decide, what might be helpful, and it comes with a few boxes of stuff. So this is not dissimilar from WordPress's, dashboard. I think some inspiration was probably taken there. But
and everything you can drag and drop.
Yes. Yep. So that's there. But when you're first starting out, you're probably going to spend more time doing things like creating or editing content, which is all done in this area, and it makes sense. Drupal comes with a couple of different kinds of content that you can create. I mean, the basic page is pretty straightforward. What everybody do you have enough, or have you heard enough about Drupal? I guess you wouldn't have, but you have heard the concept of a node.
But what page? I think one thing they're going to want more than anything is they want people to be able to, people that don't know a heck of a lot about the thing necessarily from a technical standpoint, just go ahead and be able to enter content for the page. So I think we want people to be able to walk in and say, go ahead and go to a page that somebody else put together in a site and enter content for it, more like we were entering content for a newsletter type of thing. We'll make the page for them to put the newsletter there, but they're going to be the ones that are putting the content in there, and maybe updating it and changing it from day to day to day.
Sure.
So that's more or less what kind of thing they're looking at. And when I say active content type of things, and it may be content for different groups. So we may have different pages, and they're going to have to know how to navigate around. And people are going to want to go to their particular area more likely. So it's not going to be a matter of we're going to have to navigate through big messes. We're going to try and avoid it.
Yeah, yeah. So you will. All of the things that you're talking about are possible with Drupal.
No, I guess
and,
I'm trying to say is the idea of a page and so forth is probably one of the more relevant things, or probably will be one of the relevant things as I currently understand it.
Yeah,
And the thing
oh,
you
for
need
sure.
to do is say, hey, forget it. That's not the way you do it, because I've probably got loads of misconceptions about what can or can't be done.
Well, I mean, one of the things, like, to me, the thing that that can be the most terrifying aspect of getting into Drupal as a novice, as a novice Drupal user, is that it really is what you make of it. Yeah. So I mean, it's with Drupal 7, some of this is starting to improve a little bit. Like some of the nomenclature is changing to make sure that things are a little clearer. But it's expected that you're going to want something that is highly customized to whatever your needs are. And you can absolutely create a very basic website with Drupal. There's nothing to stop you. It's just that it kind of assumes that you're going to want to do more than that. And so as a result, it has more of a blank canvas feel than something like WordPress.
So we're talking about a site that has, I'll say, a minimum of 50 pages on it right now.
Sure.
And nationally, it probably has it's got upwards of 1,000.
Sure,
so,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge organization.
Right. So, and they just want to make some of the things more flexible.
Yeah.
And some of the pages, excuse me, right now, are real turkeys. They're boring.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, it's just because nobody really has a very good way of doing it, and so they've just copied some stuff that existed before. And,
yeah.
Some of the ways just didn't work very well.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, for an organization like Sierra Club or anything like that, I mean, there's definitely going to be some conversations that you'll need to have as far as, figuring out editorial process and things that are kind of like not at first really website centric, but are more organizational. And,
well, we had a problem with that because we came up with, over a several year period, came up with a design of what we wanted to do, more or less, or a concept of what we wanted to present, and somebody came in and more or less threw it out the window and said, no, we want you to do things this way.
Mm-hmm.
And came down with a few edicts and so forth, and they're going to want something out the door and up and running by beginning of July at the latest.
Sure.
So we're looking at 3-month turnaround, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But the guts of what they want is really, hey, you got all these conservation projects and stuff like that out there, environmental, other organizations, give them a chance to go ahead and put out their information on what they're working on or what their current efforts are, so that everybody can look at these.
Yeah.
There's lots of people out there that have. One thing they discussed was putting it in things like blog formats, and they talked about WordPress and so forth. But WordPress, you can put it out like a blog, but doesn't give you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's flexibility is. I mean, it's possible, but it's not as built into the DNA.
Yeah.
I'll go back through. I'll get back to this and walk through a couple more pieces.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about? I mean, is there anything that you're? I mean, I know that this is all pretty new stuff,
Yeah.
but I mean, is there anything where you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, I would really like to do such and such, and I have no idea how to do that. Looking at this.
Well, for me, I guess, just because I just see the theme of it, I'm just like, I just want to immediately change it.
Sure. Sure. All right. So so let's take a look at the appearance section here. So this is where you will be looking at, I mean, most of your time as a designer will be spent dealing with themes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Drupal calls them. So I could take you through, so here we are. Bartik has some things built in. I mean, you can do things like change the colors of stuff, and without touching any template files, you can do all this. there are some things that you can change here, but as far as really what you're going to be interested in, it's probably not living in here.
Right.
So I'm going to duck out for a minute to the actual Drupal files and show you how this all kind of breaks down. So there's when you're dealing with Drupal stuff, there's this notion of what's core, and then what's contributed and what's yours, basically. So as a designer, most of the work that you're going to be doing is going to be in this site's default folder, and it doesn't come with anything but a spot to put files. But what you're going to be doing is, I'll just load up another example. I don't know if I have any Drupal sites that I can really show you running, but let's look in here. So in your I'm running a Drupal multi-site, so I have a ton of other little websites in here. But what happens is in your sites folder, you can put in a themes folder, and then this is where you would be working on your own design for the website.
Somebody I was talking to said they were having trouble getting the multi-site stuff to work, and the basic question boiled down something like, okay, where do I configure it to use the right site? I've looked at things like the Apache configuration file, and I could do something maybe similar in there, but how do you do it in here?
I'm
sure you're getting to there. But.
Yeah, well, I wasn't planning on going there yet.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah. So Drupal has this notion where you can run a whole bunch of websites off a single instance of the core files. So which is what I've done here. Like this is just all of this stuff out here is Drupal core. And then for the different sites that I'm working on, I won't always do it this way, but for some of them, I've run a whole bunch of just individual site folders so that I don't have to have a whole bunch of copies of Drupal core all over the place. But anyway, you have this themes folder, and so you can install, you can put in themes that other folks have done and modify them, which is the usual process for me building a new Drupal site is to go to I don't necessarily do it this way in my daily work, but when you're starting out, you can go to the themes page.
Go steal one.
Well, so there is you can steal themes that are up here. I don't know how our wireless is loving me right now, but anyway, there's a bunch of themes up there, but there are some that are called base themes. Here we go. Okay, so there was which sessions were you at earlier today?
State of typography and the Google one.
Okay. Okay. So you were not in any of the situations where they were talking about base themes or any of that stuff. Okay. So these two, Zen and Fusion, are two themes that you can grab, and I'm gonna. Well, actually, yeah, I'll do this the right way. But basically, it's like Bardic. You could take this and open up the files that run it, which are, I'm going to go back to the right folder here. And that is in the main themes folder. Here's Bardic. And so all the files that make Bardic what it is live in here. All the CSS files and the color changing stuff and the various templates and whatnot. All that stuff is in here. So if you wanted to, you could just make a copy of this folder stick it in your sites. Oh, give myself permission to make this folder again. Your themes folder, and then stick a copy of Bardic in here. And then you could modify it, and you'd have something based on this. I don't think the Bardic is the way you want to do that usually.
Right.
But
well, I have a question. So, the difference between base themes and I guess the themes that they have online is it the base themes have less crazy code on the back end?
Yes.
Okay.
The idea is that a base theme is not meant to be used by itself. It's
Okay.
the idea is that it expects you to take it and modify it.
So it's
and-
easily modified.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's not, or whether or not you would say that it's easy, it's meant for that.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah.
its purpose in
I
life.
see.
So, and the two most popular themes for that purpose, with good reason, are Zen and Fusion. And Fusion is made. Steph the Geek is right up there. They're top-notch themes. Her company is one of the is the top sponsor for this very camp. So, if you wanted to, and I think she will be presenting. I don't know if she's going to present on Fusion or if she's just expecting to help people with it. But you want to find out about dealing with Fusion stuff, you have, the experts are here for that. Zen is also a really good one. It's one that I myself tend to use a lot. It has a few different assumptions about just the way layout works. So Fusion is a grid-based theme. So if you're used to things like Blueprint or 960.js or any of those systems for grid-based web design, then Fusion would be the way you want to go. Zen is it's a different layout model. I can't remember what it's called, but it's another good one and has a lot of helper stuff. The guy that makes this one is a core contributor for the theming system in general in Drupal 7. So you would do well by starting out with either one of these. In fact, let's grab one or both. And just put them in there so you can see how that works. So I'm just going to download the Drupal 7 version, which is not, there's no stable release for it yet. They're still working on it, but I'm going to, and I think that can be said for Zen as well. So I grab those, and just, where's Fusion? There you are. So here's my downloads folder, and I have my Zen folder here. I'll go down into sites. You can put them in default or all. If you're, I guess I'll explain this. There are README files here for both of these that'll give you a little bit of a breakdown on that. But if you were running a Drupal multi-site situation, you could have a set of modules that you want on everything, and you can put them in this sites all modules folder or the sites all themes folder, and they will be available for any of your local sites. The disadvantage to doing that is if you end up with different versions of things, or if you have sites that are moving at a different pace where you get far enough along that maybe you want to upgrade a module or you want to mess around with it or customize it in a way that would not be helpful to your other multi-sites, you'll have to do a little bit of moving around.
What if you have the same module in a site-specific folder and in all? Is the site-specific override or does it merge?
Yeah, it overrides.
Okay.
It doesn't override.
So can you backroute that way if you have a more current version and all?
If you have a more, I'm not totally sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that if you have the same module, regardless of version,
That'll override. Okay,
the one in your specific site folder will take precedence. So what I usually do, as far as the theme stuff goes, because the base themes don't change so rapidly that I feel bad about doing this. So I put my base themes in my all folder. And then each of these, well, actually, let's go back to the actual browser. And I'm going to go back to the themes page, and let's see. Yep, here we are. So now I have these available. I have Zen, and I have Fusion. So none of them is enabled right now, but they're all known to Drupal.
Is Fusion black and white because it's disabled, or is it
Nope,
just
that's
that
the-
way anyway?
It's just the I mean the Fusion logo.
Yeah, I was
is-
just
is
wondering
black and
if
white.
the background was black because it was disabled state.
Nope,
It
nope.
was
That's
something they did.
that's just the way it is.
Okay.
So I'm gonna enable Fusion as the theme now. It reloads, and as you can see, not much happening here. This is it's a base theme, so there's not it's just not really doing anything.
They were saying sometimes you need to clean the cache out.
Yeah, no, I
before
mean
it'll
but
take any effect.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, different actions that you may be performing will require you to dump the Drupal cache.
Yeah, well, they changed the cache.
And it's important.
It didn't take effect.
Right. So there's everybody is aware of this notion of clearing your browser cache,
Yeah.
but Drupal has an internal cache as well that it uses because it's a very database intensive framework, and so if it had to actually run queries on the database every time you want to do anything at all,
Okay.
it slows down in a hurry. So it caches some things, so it doesn't have to make requests for them every time. And so one of the things that you always need to do is if something that you did in your theme doesn't show up, you need to empty the Drupal cache. And unfortunately, there isn't an easily accessible way to do this that's just built right into Drupal core. But there are contributed solutions that are available for that. We can talk about it at some point
I
if you
think
like.
they were using the shell.
Yeah, Drush will also help you with that. Hello? 5 minutes? Okay. So I'm going to jump back out here and just show you a little bit more about this base theme stuff. So each of these, Fusion and Zen, comes with something called Starter Kit. In Zen, it's called Starter Kit. In Fusion, it's called Fusion Starter. So the process that you use is you pick whichever one of these you want to use. The documentation for Fusion describes which of these you might want to choose. Zen only comes with one, so there's no deciding. But anyway, you grab your starter kit, you make a copy of it. You just drag it back out here to my default folder. Stick it in themes. And then there's a process that you go through to actually make this thing your own instead of having it be called Fusion Starter Lite. So I'm gonna open this up real quick. And I'm going to call this Fusion Demo Theme. And I'm going to keep everything else pretty much as it is. Give this a new name. Fusion Demo. I think with the Fusion Starter Kit, just changing these things is enough. Let's find out if I'm right. Let's also find out if this is actually going to find it. Yep, here we go, Fusion Demo Theme. So now I have my own copy of this Fusion Starter Kit that I can modify and hack to pieces to my heart's content. And so that when you're, as far as getting going, that's what you need to do. And there's going to be a birds of a feather session, I think later today, on starting from scratch. So if you don't want to use a base theme at all, which generally I don't recommend, but if you have a design that you just can't find a way to use a base theme for, then you can do this completely from scratch. And
why wouldn't you recommend to start from?
Because as with like, why would you like? It's the same reason that you would use something like Drupal to build a website when, if you're like a programmer, you might say, well, I can just build everything myself, and then I know that it's going to work exactly the way I want it to. But if you use Drupal, a lot of the problems that you run into when you're building something have already been solved for you. So like one of the, I mean, this is kind of a silly example in a way, but if you start with a base theme, you get things like these little gear menus that you can see here. Things like this are just built in, just nice little things that if you didn't use a base theme, you'd have to write it yourself, or just not have it. And there are, it kind of puts you down the road of hopefully smarter theme building by starting with a base theme. And I mean, to be honest, most websites have certain patterns that they follow. And certainly if you're building stuff that's more like, that doesn't lean as much on the online artwork side, it's quite honorable to use a base theme and start with that. But there are different ones that can suit your needs better. Fusion and Zen are the two most popular, but they are far from the only ones. There's one called Genesis. There's one called Clean, and there are others. I personally only use Zen or Fusion in pretty much all my projects, and I'm happy with them. And there are the company that. Like each of these is kind of driven by people who work for companies, and Palantir is a Chicago-based web design firm that the guy who makes Zen works for, and they have some examples. Pretty much everything they do is based on Zen, and you can. It's oftentimes you would have no idea just by looking at the website in a browser window that was what they did.
Now, I guess, is it the difference between Drupal and like WordPress? Is it that it's with Drupal? Is it you have to deal less with like cross browsing, or like what's the difference?
Things like cross browser issues. If you're building your own web design, no framework is going to save you from that.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, there are a lot of differences between Drupal and WordPress. But in terms of like big, huge picture fundamental stuff, they're kind of the same. I mean, they're both systems that let you that let people manage, a website.
Right.
It's easier, I think, to customize a Drupal site. Drupal assumes customization a little more than. Well, let me back up. Drupal assumes customization in a sense that that you're going to want to do things your way a little more than WordPress does, I think.
We sat there and tried to figure out what we wanted the thing to do, and to some degree threw WordPress out because it wouldn't let us do enough customization, or we could do it, but it would be too much work.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like you've got several different tools. You can do it with all of them.
Yeah.
But Drupal's going to be a lot less work, is what we kind of eventually figured out.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things for me that is just a really basic thing that Drupal does out of the box that WordPress can do, but just kind of hides it from you a little more, is just creating custom content types. So if you want to be able to say, I mean, it comes with article and basic page, but if you want to have something very specific, like even something as simple as like an event with a date and a time and things like that. You can do that with Drupal out of the box with nothing more, and it's pretty easy to find. And it's just assumed that is part of what you do with it, whereas WordPress doesn't really let you do that as easily. But I mean, if you're, I still think that if your main concern with a website is a blog, then WordPress is probably a better choice.
Right.
You know, with certain caveats, but it comes with things that people now these days expect a blog will have that Drupal does not just come with. It has all the tools, but it just doesn't come with it. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was awesome. About the last 10, 15 minutes, but I like it.
I'm so glad.
You
So.
didn't have to record this.
Oh, I did. I hope it's useful.